Let's open our Bibles to the book of Nehemiah. And I'm going to go to chapter 9. And we're going to read just verses 12 through 14. The book of Nehemiah. We're going to read chapter 9, verses 12 through 14. You led our ancestors by a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night, so that they could find their way. You came down at Mount Sinai and spoke to them from heaven. You gave them regulations and instructions that were just, and decrees and commands that were good. You instructed them concerning your holy Sabbath, and you commanded them through Moses, your servant, to obey all your commands, decrees, and instructions. Today's message is worship that finds God in the wilderness. Worship that finds God in the wilderness. I want to testify and just share even this week alone. I am so grateful. My wife and I experienced some things this week because of choosing a heart of gratitude, a heart of worship, a heart that is choosing to believe that God is who he said he is, that he is the supplier of all needs, that he is a healer. Proverbs 10:22 lets it be known that the blessing of the Lord, there's a blessing on your life. And I hope that everyone here recognizes there is a blessing on your life. I'm going to ask, we can bring it all the way up here. I'll help though. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. There's such a blessing on our lives. And when we know that blessing is there, it takes the pressure off of having to earn it. We covered some of that in our Sunday school class this morning. I'm not taking away the responsibility of being disciplined or taking responsibility for the things that are before you. But there's something to be said about knowing that you've already won from the beginning. I give the example often, I will watch the same superhero movie over and over again. I appreciate the tension. I appreciate the uncertainty. But the reality is, I know the good guys are going to win. I'm not surprised by that. And how much more enjoyable can your journey be when you already know that the blessing is on you? You already win. The victory is yours. But sometimes life can feel a little bit like chaos. Speaking of chaos, Miss Hannah, why don't you come on up here for a second? We're going to give just a quick snapshot, and there's no pressure. I'm going to give you plenty of time here. But why don't you just take a moment? On this table, pick that up right quick. On this table is a racetrack. We all have a race that we have to run. And ideally, there's a track, there's a course that God has already set out for all of us. But sometimes it starts out and it feels like absolute chaos. Life is in pieces, wanting to figure out what to do, how to get where we need to go. And so as I minister today, the joy is oftentimes what might feel like chaos to us, God has already given us a blueprint. And the longer we spend our time trying to figure out how to do it our way, or I'm going to get innovative and do something different, God gives us space to do that. I'll tell you some more about that as we progress. In the meantime, Miss Hannah here has been privy to a blueprint. And so she's going to be constructing this vehicle in a way that follows a pattern that's already been provided. Some of us find ourselves in wilderness longer than we need to be because we keep trying to do things our own way. The children of Israel should have had a 40-day journey to transition from 400 years of bondage into a promised land that God had already made available. They didn't have to earn the promised land. They didn't have to create the promised land. They didn't have to understand all of the inner workings of why is this a land that flows with milk and honey. They didn't have to figure out all of those things. And yet I believe that in my own case, and maybe some of you the shoe fits as well, sometimes God gives us instruction and we're sitting here asking, but how? But why? How's that going to work? I've never seen that before, God. Even to the point where he sent out some spies. Moses sent out some leaders who were supposed to have represented the virtues of the kingdom or of the nation at that time. And they came back and said, Moses, we went to that promised land. We checked it out, but it's full of giants. Like, it's got the milk and honey. It's got gigantic grapes. It's flourishing. It's beautiful. But we don't know how we're going to solve this. There's giants in the land, and we're so small. We're like grasshoppers in their eyes. Sometimes we get so perplexed with trying to understand what God has already ordained that instead of just simply following his pattern, following his instruction, going the way he's led and inspired us to go, we get lost in trying to figure out and understand all the things on the other side that God has already sustained. And so instead of 40 days to get to this promised land, the children of Israel spent 40 years in struggle, in wilderness, in just barely getting by, and just barely knowing how to survive day by day. How many of us, if given the option, if we really knew the cost of our, and I'll use the word disobedience, would mean the difference between rest and joy in 40 days versus 40 years, I'm sure most of us would hit that reset button so fast if we could, if it made sense, so that we could alleviate unnecessary strain and pain. Part of our relationship here as a church is the fact that not only do we get to commune with God and reflect what he's doing in our own lives, my hope, and I'm seeing it, is that you feel the pain of those occasions where you followed your own model, you followed your own blueprint, and instead of sitting there just as an innocent bystander while somebody else does the same thing, you'll step in and intervene and say, hey, my friend, there's a better way. I know you want to do it that way, but I've been there. Let me show you a pattern that works. Let me show you a pathway that has an assured outcome. Let me introduce you to a God who knows what he's doing. He knows who you are. He knows the race that you're supposed to run, and he knows how you can prepare yourself to run your race. That is what this significance of being a body of believers is all about. Because we're here to encourage, equip, and inspire others as well to trust God. And so let's go to the next slide. And she's doing a phenomenal job here. I'm just pausing for a second. Why don't you, before you put that on there, why don't you hold your vehicle up for me, please? That looks like a pretty sound vehicle there. How many wheels do you have? 4 wheels. All right, they seem like they spin. You got a nice frame and a chassis here, some walls on this thing, nice axles. It looks like it's coming along well. It's almost like she's seen a pattern somewhere. But she's doing something now that I think is important for us. Right now, she has 4 wheels, a chassis, some axles, some walls. But right now, if the thing just sits there, guess what? It's just going to sit there. And the reality is, some of us are allowing God to get somewhat of a framework going. But it's missing something. And Miss Hannah's working on that right now. Because right now, it just exists. Without some sort of external form of force, we talked about that yesterday. Force equals mass times acceleration. Without some sort of outside force causing it to move, it's just going to sit there. Some of us, our lives, maybe you've gotten to a stage where the chaos is no longer chaotic. Maybe you've put some things in order, thank God, but where are you going? If we're not careful, she'll frame something real nice that's just going to sit there and look real good, but it's going nowhere. It's like a monument to sit and look at and appreciate And yet we serve a God who created us to be a force on this earth on his behalf. And so what she's doing now, she's working on equipping this vehicle. Oh man, you're doing a great job. So that it can contain and transfer power. I'll come to that in a moment. We'll go to slide number 4. One of the things I want to celebrate is, even as we were reflecting last week, as we talk about worship, worship is something that continues to reference God as the source, God as the creator and the originator of all things, God who understands that he has the power and his power is superior to everything else. Worship is affirming that he's bigger than any ailment, he's bigger than any broken relationship, he's bigger than any temporary financial strain, he's bigger than any obstacle that is in our lives. And part of what worship is expressing that he is bigger than that thing. He is bigger than that obstacle, and that he has a solution that's bigger than my own. We looked last week in Exodus chapter 35, and this is, I appreciate the Bible gives us patterns and blueprints. As much as I know that there's a new covenant that we experience with the death, burial, and resurrection, and the power that comes with Jesus, there are patterns through the Bible that gives us examples on how we can pattern our own lives. Then Moses said to the Israelites, "See, the Lord has chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Ur, of the tribe of Judah." Judah is praise. "And he has filled him with the Spirit of God," filled him with the Spirit of God, filled him with the Spirit of God. Worship is a process where, as we elevate in our hearts and our minds who God is, he fills us. We draw near to him, he draws near to us. He fills our hearts with him. And so this is a significant dynamic, because right now I said that car is just sitting there. I'm going to ask you to do something symbolic for me, okay? Because we'll go to, I'm going to jump your head a little bit here. Go to slide, oh, I did not put it in here. Bless the Lord. Oh, there it is. Praise the Lord. Slide number 7. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Then the Lord formed a man. He created. He had to form. He had to take chaos and put it in order. She just took chaos and put it in order. He formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. It went from something static to kinetic. It went from something stable and just sitting there to something that had life, power, ability, the ability to move, the ability to have force, the ability to influence, the ability to have life. And so I would like for you, Hannah, can we breathe some life into this here structure that you have built? Because right now it just sits there. Right now, it's just static. Right now, it has a purpose and a course of life that it should fulfill. It has a track that it should be going on. But right now, without power, without receiving, it's just going to sit there. Our lives are much the same. And I'm going to tell you, some of us can be so accustomed. Take your time. Go ahead and breathe into that thing. Now, I don't know if you need to stretch, because sometimes God needs us to stretch before he does something new in our lives. And sometimes it feels like a bunch of resistance doing something new. But sometimes you allow him to stretch you out, it enhances your capacity to receive what he is doing. Now, if you would. I'm going to keep reading, because here's the joy of this. Guess what? I think very few of us get it right the first time. One thing's for sure, though, God does not quit. I just read this, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. He breathes life into us. We had to first do our part. That's what she's doing now. And that's what we read in Exodus. Moses was celebrating that the people followed instruction on how to build the tabernacle. That was an act of worship. When God gives you a blueprint on how to build something, he gives you a blueprint on how to build a healthy marriage, how to build a healthy household with your children, how to build healthy habits in the way you deal with people, how to build healthy habits in terms of how you manage your finances. You know, he's given us a blueprint. So, let me see here. Hold it up in the air. Man, that's got some potential there, doesn't it? One of the things you discover over time is good to reinforce the things you know. As the kids did their experiments yesterday, go ahead and let it fly. Let's see what happens. Whoa! Thank you very much. Fantastic job. Let's give her another round of applause. You know, yesterday as I watched the kids, it was fun watching them experiment because they were all given the same blueprint, but they approached it differently. They got to decorate them a certain way that was personal. And that's how God is. He's going to give us a framework on how our lives can be vessels for him, but he loves your personality. He put that in you. So it's fun watching them color these things in the way that they wanted to, as Brother Eric shared in regards to flames on some, and others had little NASCAR decals, and they did all kind of other creative things. God loves your personality. He also knows, though, the race you were created for. So even with your unique personality, he knows the framework that's going to give you good success. It was interesting watching some of them work their cars, and they would fly off the table, and boom, something would fall off. You know what? These kids were having fun. That wasn't the end of the world. I think I did see one or two of them with a few tears, and we had to help them walk through those tears and let them know, guess what? This isn't the end of the world. You can go back at it again. And they learned some things like, okay, I know the structure now. Maybe I'll get some extra tape to reinforce the structure that works. Sometimes one of the best things we can do is figure out how do we make the things that God has already made evident to us more solid, more stable, more concrete in our lives. So they put a little extra tape to reinforce it. I want to encourage you to do that. The structure matters. Allow God to breathe his life into you. Part of what happens with worship is you have to submit yourself to God and allow him. Man, I'm going to put this down. We have to allow him the ability to breathe into us. If we just sit kind of uptight and just pinch this thing, God can try and breathe in all he wants to, but if we're too uptight and won't let him breathe in, sometimes, you know, you have a crash or two, you lose a few wheels and you got a few scuff marks. You might be like, you know what? I don't even want to get on the road again. I'm just going to sit at home and let life survive the way it's been. I don't even want to have hope again. God is here to let us know, even when things fall apart, my blueprint still works. Let's go to slide number 6, please. God already has a plan for you to be successful. It says in Genesis 1:26, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. He's already preordained not only to put a blessing on your life, his blessing. You're waiting on somebody else's approval when God has already said, I made you to be like me. My blessing is on your life. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God created them, male and female, he created them. Guess what? God has purpose for all of us around here. Verse 28, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number. I'm going to tell you, you look around, Pastor Brad and I are talking about it like, you know what? I wish we could sit here and say, oh yeah, we're working this strategy and God is bringing new people in the door. Nope. That's you doing it. God is working through you. You are allowing God to breathe into you in a way that now your vehicle becomes a pathway for others to come to know him. I'm so thankful for you. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds of the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground. And I'm going to close out here on this slide. Number 8, please. Slide number 8. And this is where we bring it all together. We worship as we model him. This is a model. Somewhere, who's the master crafter of these projects, we didn't have to cut out these car silhouettes. They already had them crafted. Somewhere is a master crafter, a master creator who's like, I'm going to give you the basics. Will you present it back to me assembled the way I prescribed for you? Romans 12, chapter 1. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. One of the greatest evidences of our worship towards God, and on that the worship team can come forward, is when we're willing to follow God's word, his principles, his blueprint, and allow our bodies, our lives, to be well-structured vessels where his breath of life can dwell and his power can compel so that others can see him at work. This is what worship looks like. No one calls me up to sing on a worship team. Nobody does that. So if you thought that you being a worshiper was solely relegated to your ability to grab a microphone and sing, that is only one form of worship. When we allow ourselves to be formed and run on the track that God has us, I don't know that I've ever heard Brother Washington sing, but you know what? He's doing a phenomenal job in that Sunday school class, and I'm thankful. I don't know that I've heard Barb sing, but man, thank goodness she and Benny are probably downstairs now preparing a meal for some men and women who desire and deserve some fellowship. We all have different gifts, and the ability for us to flow on the track that God has for us is what's most important, and this is our greatest form of worship to God. It says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. As we allow the worship from our worship team to consume our ears and our hearts, I'm going to give you a moment that maybe, just maybe, you'll allow God to breathe into you in an area that maybe you've held pinched off and closed off, and allow him to flow in you like never before. He loves you. If the wheels have fallen off, he's going to help you put them back on. But he still has an amazing purpose in your life.